So in this episode of Future Steps Creative, I'm going to be talking about the reasons why I use WordPress and why I think you should too. I've got about 7 reasons here that I want to go through, and hopefully that's going to help you make an informed decision about WordPress, or at least understand what WordPress is and why I use it and millions of other people use it across the board, across the world, for their business website. Okay. So this is Future Steps Creative, as you know, the podcast that talks about online business strategies around content marketing and website strategy. I'm your host, Marlon McPherson, and we are on episode 31. On a previous episode, I talked about the things you need to take into consideration, or things you need to know when considering setting up a website. So in that episode, I would have mentioned, as well as in other episodes also, I would have mentioned WordPress, and that is the platform that I use to build all my websites and websites that I build for others as well. So we're going to jump straight in to the content here by going through my list. However, you'll be able to see the show notes with this list here. So if you can't see anything on my screen, if you're watching the video on YouTube or on my website, then you could just go to the post that I will be doing, and you'll find that by going to marlonmcpherson.com/031. So that represents episode 31, and it should just find that correct headline or the correct episode. So WordPress, in order to kind of jump into the list here, I need to explain a little bit about WordPress, just in case you don't understand what WordPress is. Maybe you've never heard of it before, or maybe you have heard of it, but you don't quite understand what it does and what it's all about. So I have to start by explaining what the history of, very brief history, I promise, about how websites come about, how they get built. Because to the average person, they go into a web browser, they type in an address, and a page gets pulled up. They see content, they see images, they see text, and in their head, a lot of the times they associate that with the print industry, where you can, or a Word document or something of that nature, where you just literally type the stuff in and it appears on your screen. Unfortunately, there's a bit more to it than that, and the way that websites used to be created, or web pages used to be created, because a website is simply a connection of a network of pages and other material to create one resource, which is called a website. So they were created using computer code, and you would require you'd need to have somebody who understands code to write it, to be able to create a simple page. So they would literally be writing lines and lines and lines of technical computer code, which is specific to a certain language in the tech world called HTML. And unless you know that, how to write the code or how to read it, you wouldn't be able to necessarily go in and edit a website or make any changes to it. So that's how it came about, how it started out. I remember when I got introduced to the whole world of the internet and websites back in the 90s, it was all about coding. Now, I'm not somebody that is into sort of that level of things, and I needed to have an easier way over the years to actually do this if I was going to pursue this, and if I was going to build websites for myself and so on. So I discovered WordPress some years after. I can't remember when WordPress came out, but WordPress essentially is what's called a content management system. So in the context of websites, a content management system is where it takes all the content, as in your pages, which has the text and images, or posts in terms of blog posts, or the images themselves, or any other assets, any other files that's associated with your website. It takes it and organizes it in one system, which allows you to access and make changes and do things that you need to do to manage your website quite straightforward. So essentially, WordPress is a piece of software, and it needs to be installed on a web hosting company's servers in order for a website to be created on WordPress, and then it goes out to the world. So in a nutshell, that's how it works. Obviously, there's a lot of other things in between that I could get into, but we'll be here until tomorrow. So that being said, anyway, WordPress isn't the only content management system, but it's by far the most popular. And my reasons here, my reasons for using it is going to kind of give you an insight into why it's one of the most popular and so on. In fact, popularity is one of the reasons why I use it as well. So the first reason why you should use WordPress and why I use it is because it's free and it's open source. And I'll explain what that means. Free, I mean free in terms of monetary, as well as free in terms of what you're able to do. So unlike other platforms which may be proprietary, meaning that you can only use the system that you're on based on how they want you to use it, and you cannot kind of get deep into the infrastructure of it to kind of make any adjustments and changes beyond what they allow you to do. We're talking about platforms that you might see advertised like Squarespace, Wix. I've talked about them in previous episodes. These are packaged platforms that you're basically just paying for access to them, and you don't actually own and control them beyond what they allow you to do. Whereas with WordPress, it's open source. Open source software means that the owners of the software, in this case is Automatic, the company is called Automatic, they share the code, they share the actual infrastructure of the platform, the software with others. They allow you to see it openly. So if you're a developer, if you're someone that wants to expand on what they've built, you're allowed to go in and actually make changes and to build on top of that and to actually expand out. So it creates a whole wealth of possibilities, and they're not just closing you off and you're not able to kind of do anything because it's all secretive. So that's one thing. It's very transparent with the way the software is built, so you can see exactly what goes into it if you're that person that wants to be able to help. And they have a big community of others that contribute to the development of WordPress as well. So that's one of the reasons, the first reason why I use it. Second reason is popularity, and I touched on that a little bit earlier. So WordPress is, depending on where you look and what stat you look at, it's just over 30% of all websites that use WordPress worldwide. Now that is impressive because you have so many other platforms and ways that a website could be built. However, WordPress definitely has the market share with over 30%. And if you check the type of sites that WordPress is being used on, it's across the board. We're not talking about just obscure sites in a little corner somewhere that no one knows about. We're talking about government websites. I believe the Canadian government have a website on WordPress, or one of these countries anyway. You have big companies like Disney. You have news outlets such as some of the BBC websites. You have lots of celebrity sites that are utilizing WordPress as well. And that being said, obviously it's a very, very popular software, and therefore you're able to get that support and help when you need it, because you have so many people using it. There's bound to be somebody else that's experienced something similar to you. If you run into any issues, or if you want to be able to do something, you want to overcome a challenge with it, you want to expand on it, or do something within WordPress that you don't know how to, somebody else will know how to do it. The third point is, continuing from what I just said, it's a nice segue, is the supportive community. So because it's so popular, you'll always find somebody, like I said, to help you with things. But you can also do a lot of things based on following tutorials. There's lots of blog posts, articles, videos that you can find. I've done things, I've put out content myself, including a free website course, how to build your own website. There's lots of things out there that you can use as resources for WordPress. So therefore, you're never ever going to feel like you're on your own with some obscure software that no one or hardly anyone knows about. And if you need some help, you can't hire a developer. You can't find a developer that specializes in it, because there are so many people that come across WordPress and know how to use it. The fourth point is, you have endless possibilities with WordPress. There are lots of add-on software that's been created for it. These are referred to as plugins in the WordPress world. And these plugins allow you to add pretty much any kind of functionality you can think of. within a website. So the base software itself, WordPress, allows you to do things like publish content, like publish your pages, publish posts, and you're able to do overall design work within WordPress. However, you have these additional softwares or pieces of software called plugins as well as themes. They're slightly different. A theme is sort of like an additional layer on top of WordPress that allows you to do more design customizations, and it determines the look and feel of the website. I actually use a professional theme called Divi. It's a paid theme, and you can just about create any kind of design layout with that, and that's what I've invested in for my projects. Plugins wise, these are the additional pieces that you need to now add things on top of WordPress to give it functionality, such as if you want to add a online shopping cart type of experience, then there are plugins that allows you to do that. If you want to add, say, some sort of special form, whether that's for a survey or for basic needs like contacting you and so on, there are form plugins that you can set up on a WordPress website as an additional thing that gives you these advanced features and so on. If you want to add a gallery for photos or anything of that nature, these are the type of things you can expand out on and create a variety of different types of websites. So if you can think about what's available to you, it is very flexible to implement these things. And there are companies that specialize in just doing plugins for specific things. So you can always research and test these plugins and see what works in order to build out your dream website and to give you that functionality to create the best user experience for your website users, whether that's a client site or a branded site or anything of that nature. The fifth point I've got here is that WordPress is easy to use. So you can manage and edit your content quite easily, and you have an environment that is quite familiar. When you're editing on WordPress, it looks almost like a word processor when you're in the actual pages of the content and so on. And when you want to add images, they've got a media gallery that you can just upload your images and any other documents to that you want to implement onto the website. So it's fairly straightforward, being a content management system for a regular, quote unquote, regular person to go in and actually edit their website. And I do encourage people to do that. Even people that I manage websites for, I actually empower them to do so. And, it's quite fulfilling to be able to do that if you own your own website, to be able to go in and control how, the content gets displayed or what content you put on there without having to rely on having a developer go in with, code to actually make these adjustments, which can be quite inconvenient. Number 6 is this is a big one, by the way. You can host your website anywhere. And I touched on the proprietary platforms earlier. You don't have any control over where your website is hosted. You don't know what services they're using, and you can't just switch to another hosting service if you're with one of these companies that actually you pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee to, and they actually just allow you to use the space on their platform. You don't own their platform, they just let you use the space. You can't just say, let me move my website to a better hosting but keep it on their system. No, you'd have to rebuild your website somewhere else, and that's when you're able to host it wherever you want. And WordPress allows you to do that. Once you build the site, you can actually take that site and move it from one host to another. If, say, the performance isn't great on one, or you need some other feature or something of that nature, you are free to do that. So you're not restricted in that sense. The final reason is it's great for SEO. Out the box, WordPress is built to handle SEO. It has features already that is going to allow search engines, i.e. Google and so on, to be able to crawl the site or index your site, meaning that they'll be able to go through your pages, any content you have on the site, and actually index it or store it within their database, so that when somebody types in a Google search for a particular search term, a phrase or words or whatever they might use, they're looking for. If your site, if you have a page or pages that matches that search results, it's likely that Google is going to put you in the list of results that comes up. The more relevant the results or the content you have on your site, that's where you are most likely to show up. So if you're looking to do ongoing SEO, meaning that you're going to be optimizing your site by putting content on there, which is something that I'm a very big advocate for, creating ongoing content on your blog or creating videos for YouTube, and making sure those answer the queries, the search queries that are going out on a daily basis. And there are ways you can actually tap into what's being asked and so on, and make sure that leads back to you because you have an expertise in that area. So it's a great starting point for SEO, and it has a few different plugins that you can add completely free as well, because plugins can be free or paid, that will allow you to go in and even optimize it further to make it friendly to Google. I'm using Google in this case because they are the biggest, and they basically dictate how the internet search results gets used or gets displayed, and the smaller companies that come under them just follow suit normally. So that's my roundup. It's not like the complete list of everything you could possibly think of why you would want to use a WordPress website, but it's the 7 reasons here in this case that I've chosen that I think I wanted to tell you about. Now, if you've got questions about this, feel free to leave me a comment down in the comments area if you're watching on YouTube. You can also reach out to me via my website, marlonmcpherson.com. There's a contact form there that you can use, and I'll be able to answer whatever questions I can as time permits. So thank you for watching. You can check out some of the other episodes, and I will catch you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay creative, and stay productive. Take care.